I'll wait for just a minute.
Wouldn't move, just kept its eye
5
on
more
me all the
seconds.
time. It wasn't back away.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. First on our agenda is the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion for approval and/or pulling anything you would like to have pulled from the consent agenda. I'm sorry. It says consent agenda. Okay.
I'd like to, if we could discuss a little bit the Lutra report.
Absolutely. Okay. And let's put that under number 4 in old business.
There's no number 2, is there?
I know, number 2 is missing, so I'm just going to go right to number 4.
Commissioner Max Bauer, we have on here scholarship committee to just receive and file, but I do see it also under number 3 under old business.
You know, those are two different things, Commissioner Byrne.
Okay.
And I'll pull the scholarship committee because I did
Right.
plan to give an update.
Yeah. Excellent.
Marilyn, why are these items, some of these items, well, actually, Jason, maybe this is a question for you. Some of these items say that they're going to be discussed, but yet they're in the receive and file. Is there a reason for that? I guess please excuse me, I just find it a little
Where
confusing.
you mean where it mentions update?
Yeah,
Is that what you're referring to?
yeah.
Just a copy and paste error, to be honest with you.
Oh, all right. Okay, well, in that case, all right, I'm going to make an executive decision here. How about we just take the receive and file off of there, and we'll just discuss 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 under new business, but I promise to go speedily, if at all possible. Is that all right?
Yes.
Okay. Can I have an approval of the agenda, please?
So moved.
Okay, support?
With Kevin's correction?
We're approving the agenda, or are we
Correct.
approving the minutes?
Oh, I'm
The
sorry.
agenda.
I'm sorry.
We're approving the agenda.
I'll support.
Okay, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same? Okay, now I would entertain a motion for approval of the minutes.
Madam Chair, I'd like to pull the minutes for a minor correction to be considered, please.
All righty, we will put that under
Absolutely.
we'll put it under the last thing under new business. I have so many notes on this thing, I'm going to lose my place.
Number 5.
I'll make it last. All righty. Any conflicts of interest? All right. We have an opportunity at this time for public comment. Would anyone like to step forward and make public comment at this time?
Is this pertaining to what you just got done talking about?
The minutes, no, it's on any subject that you'd like to speak on. Public comment.
Why? I have one.
Please, come forward.
Well, we were sent here by a lady at the,
Sir, could you step up to the microphone and give your name and address, please, for the record?
I'm Jerry Reinhardt. My address is 308 Timber Hill Drive, Traverse City. Reinhardt, R-E-I-N-H-A-R-T.
Thank you.
We were just sent here, I went to the DNR. My wife and I were kicking around the idea of having a small kayak rental business.
Uh-huh.
Very small. And they told us we got everything okay from the DNR. But some of the public launch sites on the Boardman River, from what I understand, are controlled by Parks and Recreation, not
Okay.
the state. The state says it's okay, I got the paperwork for that. And we just wanted to inquire if that would be possible. This isn't going to be a big thing, and it's just going to be sporadic, where if somebody wants to, take a couple kayaks down the river, we drop them off and pick them up. And I'm just wondering, I was told to come to this meeting,
Okay.
and I don't know if I'm in the right place, or...
Mr. Reinhardt, can I ask you to give our director, Jason Jones, a call?
Yeah, you and I should sit down.
And Jason, if you could give Mr. Reinhardt your phone number?
I got your email, I did email you yesterday,
Okay,
and so you'd be the... guy
I'll be the
that I talked to.
contact.
Yours-
Yep,
Marilyn, I
absolutely.
believe it was, told me I might want to come over here to the meeting.
Great.
Okay.
So I'll be in contact with you early next week, and we'll set up a meeting and sit
We're
down
going
and
to
discuss.
China for 6 weeks to pick up her daughter on the 26th, so early next week would be great, and then maybe you could kick it around, and by the time we get back, if it works, we could get started.
Great,
Thank you very much, sir.
thank you.
Okay. Any additional public comment? All right, seeing none. Old business. Strategic planning update, discussion. Is there any discussion?
I just wanted to give an update. The committee that we put together to develop, or to write the goals based on the information that was discussed at Saturday's meeting is going to meet on Tuesday of next week at 9 a.m. at the Civic Center meeting room. I know Commissioner Byrne, Commissioner Maxbauer, and Commissioner Clark and I were all interested in being there, but the meeting was offered to anyone to be part of that committee. So I was just making the board aware that that meeting will be held on Tuesday at 9.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Doran?
Were you going to send out one of those calendars for the next meeting, strategic planning meeting of the full commission?
Yes, a doodle meeting, Marilyn will be sending out a doodle meeting after this committee meets on Tuesday, just to ensure that this committee is able to meet and is able to get some goals formulated to ensure that they don't have to set up another meeting.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
All right, the next item on our agenda is Scholarship Committee discussion. That would be myself and Commissioner Byrne, since it's under old business. The Scholarship Committee met on April 13th, and we did have a concern regarding the grant. We had some questions whether or not, if we have not spent the money within the first year of receiving the grant, whether or not we could continue to use the money for that purpose. The answer is yes. I did speak with Mary Showman, who is the legal representative, as did Commissioner Byrne, with the Grand Traverse Band. And as long as we are using the money for the intended purpose of swim lessons for disadvantaged children, yes, we may continue. I also double-checked, we were concerned that we were coming up on a reporting deadline. We are not. Mary Showman told me that our reporting deadline is a year after we have been in receipt of the grant. And so I called Dean Bott, actually I left him an email, our finance director, and I asked him what date we received the check. Mary said that she thought it was in August, so we've got some time to get our report together. Commissioner Byrne has graciously agreed to draft the initial report. Commissioner Byrne, to let you know, I've also contacted some of the county departments that have been in receipt of grants in the past, so we can take a look at how they have drafted their reports, how they've submitted their reports, and we can do a report in a similar manner, and I think that will give you a good guide to go with. I did talk to Mary about, as did Commissioner Byrne, about how we've used the grant to date, and she was confident that we are in compliance with the grant, and I think we are going to just percolate along.
Now, do we, just for clarification, when we met last week, we talked about, what Mary had told me is that we needed to request an extension. So
We do
we
not.
don't need to request an extension at all?
No.
Or we don't need to request an extension until August?
We do not need to request an extension until August.
Until August. So we do need to request an extension, but we have till August.
We may need to request an extension.
Okay, and who will we
And
find that out from? Or
I will get clarification
Okay.
in writing from...
I was going to ask if we could get that
Yes,
in
I
writing,
will get
so we have
clarification.
that.
But we're percolating along just fine. And I do want to report, I did ask for a spreadsheet from Kim regarding how many students have been put into our lesson program, and I thought, one of the items I thought was interesting that I thought the commission would like to know is, we have 46 students in Level 1 and Level 2 swim lessons, and 22 of those are scholarships. So I just thought that was a bit of information that the board would like to hear. And that really is the update on my scholarship committee. Commissioner Byrne, do you have anything to add?
I guess just a comment. Being involved with this committee and the fact that we were awarded $7,500, I was really surprised. We made a very valiant effort to not only reach out to almost 400 children within the band, but also, I don't know exactly how many students, but all second and third grade, I believe. Or was it just third grade?
No, it was second and third
Second and
grade.
third grade.
7 and 8
students
year olds.
within TCAPS, and to only get a response of, we have 46 students placed, or 22
No,
placed?
I
22 placed.
just chose level 1 and
Okay,
2.
okay.
We have 2 students placed. This is just spring
Right.
2010.
Yeah, but I just, I guess I just wanted to make the comment that I was really surprised at, that we didn't get the response. I mean, we were talking to Kim that we would, do you have enough lessons planned? We're going to get these people coming in droves, and we didn't, and I was kind of surprised. So I don't know if there's something within our quote-unquote marketing, or...
Or lack
parents-
thereof.
or the school isn't getting, because we're relying on the schools to put flyers in folders and students to bring those folders home, and,
To what degree could that be a function of not having transportation?
well, we
Particularly-
have, on our application, we do have, would you need transportation, and we have the funds to provide transportation. So,
But
but
to
we're
my
just not
knowledge,
getting the response. We're
I-
not getting applications.
I have
in.
not seen all of the applications, but to my knowledge, I have not heard that there has been a request on the applications for
For
transportation.
right.
So,
Yep.
but we're working diligently, and
And my thought is that, this is new. People are not used to having the ability to get a scholarship for swim lessons, and perhaps it will start to pick up, but it was just my,
believe we did have one request for transportation, and as the front desk staff talked to them, they kind of changed their mind on it, so
yeah.
they decided they could do it, so I
Okay.
didn't bring that to the committee, but...
all right.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's my
That's
update. Anything else? Any other additional questions? Seeing none, moving on to, all right, let's go up to the Lutra report, and we'll just go right down. Lutra rules, scholarship, budget, and of course, the letter is just receive and file.
We can take scholarship out, right, or do we need to talk about something
Well,
else?
that's another question I
Okay.
have on a
Oh,
on a
that's right,
different
the
topic.
other scholarship.
Just a quick question. Okay, Lutra. Commissioner Doran.
I want to ask why the items 15 and 16 have not been started yet. They are, in the Lutra report, to establish additional benefits to membership, and 16 to sell true 52-week memberships. If I, at least financially, if I read the Lutra report right, those are very important.
Yeah, since I've arrived, we've been talking about how we were going to address the fee structure, and so I've been waiting for that fee structure thing to just implement it and roll it all into one, because, selling the 252 would affect all of that. So rather than making little changes and, keep changing everything on the public just to do one, this is what we're doing and here it is, move, so.
Yes, but aren't you going to have a game plan, some kind of marketing, or a memo to us or something about, okay, here, whatever the fee schedule is, here's how we're going to get this information out to the public and invite them to come in and buy these memberships? Shouldn't this have been started in some way, is my question. I guess I would like to see it started in some
Oh, I agree.
theoretical fashion.
I agree. Like I said, the commission keeps saying, well, we're going to get to it, and it got moved to strategic planning, and so I've just been, I don't know what to market until I know what it is. We have been marketing, come into the pool. We've had ads in the Insider addressing, that we have lap swim, that we have water aerobics, that, that we have memberships available. We have been marketing that way. But as far as making those changes, I've been waiting for one big rollover and with guidance from the commission, because that's the direction I felt the commission wanted to go.
Well, we're just going to come up with the dollar amount, right?
Well, this is,
It's a little bit bigger than just the dollar amount.
Just for your information, and this occurred before your arrival, the Parks Board last year voted to implement LUTRA. I'm pretty sure it was last year during a strategic planning meeting. And part of the implementation was a 52-week membership, cut it back. And I will tell everyone that I bought my husband and my membership in March of 2009. And when I went in March in 2010, as I told the board, I asked Marilyn if I know I'm due pretty soon. I'd like to pay for my annual membership. And she said, well, you're not due until June. They don't sell true 52-week memberships. I do have a concern about our discussion to postpone looking at fees. And I say that primarily because we just received our equalization report, and I'm sure you all saw it in the newspaper this morning. The county board in 2010 is projecting to, originally, out of their original budget, is projecting to spend $950,000 out of fund balance. The equalization report indicates that we're going to add another $750,000 to that deficit for a total of 1.7. That is a serious increase. And I think, and I have not spoken with the county administrator, but I did see in the Record Eagle that he said one of the things that they will be looking at are fees. And the county board yesterday passed our board rules in the resolution in committee. And in those board rules, it says that this committee is going to be responsible for a budget. I personally, this is just my opinion, I personally do not see a problem with moving, memberships in the pool to 52 weeks. And Kim, I would like to see how we're measuring those memberships, how many we have, how many we're keeping, how many are new. As it's so much, the reason, as I interpret LUTRA, the reason that memberships are stressed is because you only need one guard on duty. The labor cost is so much less.
Well, I think it's a given that we wanted to have true 52-week memberships because that was part of the report and we adopted the report. I was just asking staff to, get the ball rolling insofar as planning. Maybe that would even help in determining what the proper fee should be compared to the daily fees, and so that when whoever does establish the fee, we can hit the ground running and get going with trying to do whatever you advise us we should be doing to get the people.
I will work on it and have it for you next month.
Okay.
Commissioner Byrne.
I just wanted to make a comment in regards to strategic planning and fees. And at our meeting on Saturday, the reason that I had brought up that we really need to kind of hold off on fees because we as a commission need to decide where we want this department to go. Some of the things that have been in the Record Eagle, we're starting this baseball program. And Jason was chastised in the Record Eagle because he put out a proposal that program is actually going to be in the positive. And because it's going to be in the positive, that's not good. Are we going to direct our director to be making money in programs or specifically providing a service? Is the goal for the pool to make money, or to provide a service. And again, I will say to you that in our public meetings that we had last year, we had public that came and said, I'm a taxpayer, and I do not mind that our pool is subsidized by my tax dollars. I feel the pool provides an excellent service, and if it is subsidized, that's fine with me. It's a service that we need to have in this community. So are we as a board going to develop fees that the pool has to make money, or the pool needs to be at this percentage of a subsidy or something, but that needs to come from strategic planning. I do agree that perhaps some fees, but we got to have a balance somewhere. Are we going to give direction to our director? Are we as a board going to have some direction? Or are we just going to change fees? And what kind of thought is going to be behind what those fees are set at? Are we a department that's providing services, or are we a department that is solely a revenue business? And that's all I need to say, I guess.
Do we have any other questions for Kim on Lutra? Any additional comments on fees? Is our direction to ask for implementation of a 52-week membership for Easling Pool?
I think we've already done that in
All right.
adopting the Lutra report, haven't we?
I believe it, but I just wanted to be clear.
Well, part of our adopting that Lutra report was that it did not mean that every single recommendation on this report was going to happen. And I do remember that distinctly, that there were some things on the Lutra report that were not necessarily specific to our facility in what we do in our facility. The gentleman that did this report, Dave Rowland, works in a pool that is not a municipality. It is not it's not a pool that is subsidized by tax dollars. So some of the recommendations in here may not be ones that we would.
Actually, it is a municipal facility. He returns money from the operation to a municipality.
Is it a tax subsidized pool?
No, it doesn't lose money.
Right. Well,
Well, Kim, every month, gives us a Lutra report with 47 boxes on it. So I assume that those 47 things are a part of whatever portion of Lutra we adopted, and I like that. I like the format. It's just that every month I see that those things are not started, and I was hoping that they would get started as soon as we can.
All right. Next on, anything else before moving on to rules?
well, Commissioner Doran had posed a question. I don't know if that was a motion or not, but, are we giving direction to Kim that she needs to implement a 52-week membership?
That's
And
what I
think,
heard.
Any comments?
Jason?
The direction should be to me.
Okay, that's true. Kim, is there any reason why you wouldn't do 52-week memberships right now? Anything that you want to share with us, or?
No, like I said, I was just waiting for it all to come in one big package that we could present to the public instead of doing little baby steps.
So that's something, that's a change that would be easily done, like starting tomorrow, just that any new memberships that are purchased are 52-week memberships if they're a yearly?
Well, there'd be a little bit more to look at with that.
I guess I'm just asking if
Because it
if
would
that
be,
direction was
would we change the fee of the membership to accommodate for that difference? And so there's some things that we'll have to weigh out before, I can't just go into work tomorrow and say, all right, we're now changing it to 52 weeks, so.
So you'll just report on to us next month? Okay.
We're not doing 52 weeks. What are we doing for a membership length?
It's approximately 54 weeks, because we always plan for, isn't it 54, Marilyn? 54 weeks for a yearly because of a year
Closures.
pool, or a week, because of the pool closure.
So I got extra time?
A week for the pool closure, and then for a variety of days
Oh,
built in for
you added
contaminations.
to the 54 weeks. Okay, because I know March to, okay.
The reason it's 54 weeks is to accommodate for the one-week pool closure that we do annually, as well as to accommodate for any days of closure that may be associated with pool maintenance, contaminations, things of that nature for our members.
Christine said hers was due in March. Marilyn told her it wasn't due till June. That's,
Was there any adjustments
There
made?
may have been, without seeing the history, I can't go on this, but there may have been some adjustments if you guys, and Chris, pardon me if I'm wrong, if you guys made an adjustment from a family membership or from individuals to a family, or there may have been,
No.
Some
I'm going to make an
adjustments made.
adjustment this year, but no.
perhaps if the pool was down for a few weeks, that would make a difference. That would lengthen.
No, the pool was
and that's
closed
why
for a
we,
bit.
that's why we make it 54 weeks to accommodate for our annual one-week shutdown and any additional days related to contaminations or other pool maintenance that may need to be done throughout the course of the year.
Any additional questions? Okay, on to Rules Committee update. There really isn't one. We're meeting next week.
This is, April's an unusual month with our Rules Committee actually meeting after Parks and Recreation, so.
Okay. Next, I'm sorry, Jason.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Doran?
Did the county board approve the bylaws?
Yes.
Yes, they did.
Yesterday.
Okay, great.
And that's something I've got on the agenda a little bit later.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. Next, once again, Scholarship Committee, and this is a different subject. I just wanted to ask the board, and I said I would ask it formally at a meeting, and so I am. Right now, we just have the Swim Scholarship Committee. We do not have a scholarship committee that encompasses other sports. Do we want to just continue as we are doing right now, or do we want to form a committee that encompasses other sports? Commissioner Byrne?
I've been thinking a lot about this, doing some research of what happens across the country as well as within Michigan, speaking with some people that I met at the conference that we went to in January, and one of the things that they have downstate, and forgive me, I'm drawing a mental blank here, but it's, and Jason, you might be able to help me out, like youth athletic league, the youth scholarship fund.
Didn't you call it a youth alliance?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The alliance was escaping my mind. Youth Alliance, and the way Youth Alliance works is it's like a group, but like a scholarship committee, and families go to Youth Alliance and apply and can utilize that money for dance classes, cheerleading, football, whatever. They have the application, they gather all that information, and a check is written from them to whatever entity that family decides to do. We do not have one in Traverse City. Perhaps that's something that within our strategic planning within this department, we may want to make that one of our goals, that we set something up like that for our recreation services that we have within Grand Traverse County, or just,
So what I'm hearing from you is wait until strategic planning?
I'm thinking it's something that that was something that I had put on my goals, and that didn't get a sticker.
Oh, okay.
And so that got pulled down, and it wasn't something that we really talked about in detail at our planning meeting, but I'm thinking that's a large, that could be part of one of our goals. That could be how we get to where we are. If it's increasing people coming to our parks or coming to our services, perhaps doing some kind of youth scholarship program could be part of that.
Commissioner Clark?
I would just like to suggest for consideration that if we move forward in combining activities for scholarship for different types of sports, it's better to have one place to go than 5 or 6 for the public. It's less confusion. And so my feeling is that the scholarship committee may need to evolve into something that's holistic for all the various sports that we could have a scholarship for, and have one source and one place to go for our constituents.
And would we do a committee, or would that be something that would be facilitated through the staff? Like Jason is facilitating the baseball
I'm going to call on him in
scholarship.
just a second do I have any thoughts from other commissioners? Commissioner Doran?
I think it's what the director should be doing, really. I think that the grant from the tribe was a little bit different, I guess, but in general, I look at this as something that should be centralized, like Russ says, but centralized in the director, and he tells us what his, what his criteria is of the meals program or whatever, and then he just does it.
Okay. Jason?
I see, from my perspective, I see we're talking about a couple different issues here. One, we've talked about scholarships for programs that we offer. So a scholarship program that we could easily manage in-house for swimming, for baseball, and if we have flag football in the fall, which is on our radar right now, that would be a possibility, and that's something that we've found a great amount of success by using the standards and the guidelines with the free and reduced meal program. We've given away 13 scholarships right now for baseball, and it's a process that takes right around 5 minutes. And it's easy for the customers, it's easy for us to manage, and it keeps us out of privacy issues. The second issue that we're talking about is offering, and I want to make sure I'm understanding properly, a broader scholarship program that is not specifically designed for our internal programs. And if that's what I'm hearing, there might be an easier way to do this in partnering with some other type of organization in the community. And that's something that would easily fall under one of the strategic goals that we will more than likely be formulating on Tuesday, because one of the goals was related to developing and offering recreational opportunities to the community. So the things that we don't operate, we could put together a different board or utilize some members of this commission or myself to guide another board. There are some other youth advisory boards in the community that maybe this will reactivate. So I think there's a couple different options here, and it would be great for us for myself and staff to explore that opportunity.
The reason I brought this up to the board is because I think it's unlikely that someone is going to walk in and say, Grand Traverse County, I would like to just give you $100 so that someone I don't know can play baseball. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen. But if it's a somehow, and I think, Jason, your idea is good, partnering with another organization, because if it's a 501c3, a nonprofit organization, people are certainly much more likely to donate. But I'm hearing that we do not want a committee at this level at this time.
I'm thinking we're premature with our
right.
strategic planning and...
Well, I promised I'd bring it up, so I did,
Yeah.
and all right. Next on our agenda, let's see if I can find my place here. Budget report.
I'd like to, can I add something? to the
Certainly.
budget? First and foremost, Commissioners, I want to apologize. I've given you some erroneous information. The budget that I included in this packet, I was working from memory, and I thought you were looking for more detail within each of the activities. After reviewing the minutes, I realized this just today, the motion was actually for previous year's information. So I just wanted to apologize that I did not include previous year's information on this budget, and it is something that you'll see included in the budget report in upcoming months.
But, Jason, as I understood it, and I may have misunderstood, we requested information that was presented more like Commissioner McElligay's example, not, 30 pages, where you have to
Right.
sit down with a calculator.
And the issue that we had, my understanding is you guys wanted essentially what Commissioner McElligay put together for the Parks and Recreation Commission
Correct.
for each of the individual parks. That is a huge, that's a bigger task than you think it is with each of our parks. Unless I don't know how to use a computer properly. Maybe that's the case. But this information, the information that Kevin presented, was copied and pasted from our AS400 system, which is the system we use internally. And instead of copy and pasting these issues, or each of those individual pages, I was able to print directly from AS400. So this is the raw data that we use internally within the same column format that Commissioner McEllier put together. It's just the bottoms of the pages are cut off a little bit differently.
I'll just
Kevin?
summarize if you wish. Thanks, Jason. I appreciate the clarification. You mentioned that this was not your intention in the motion, and just clarified that we got more line item detail this time. Some commissioner members were requesting additional line item detail, but thanks, I'm satisfied you've clarified that the motion clearly states we wanted to see summarized information. So this is a learning process, and what I'm hearing from fellow commission members is in the future, we'll see increases and decreases to years past when you're able to kick out those type of formats. And we can also see the level of detail that some commissioners wanted to see if necessary, but we're not going to get these 30 pages every month here. Thank you.
Commissioner Clark?
Jason, I appreciate getting this from the standpoint that I've been wondering where the revenues are for the 2 cell towers on park property. We have a cell tower we receive rent from on Twin Lakes, as well as one at the Civic Center. And the common number that I see at both of them is on page 18, item number 66900, and on page 42, item number 6900, it says rents. Would that be the rental income from those cell towers?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Good.
The rents within the Civic Center, the rents, that is included in the rents at the Civic Center. That is not specifically cell tower rents.
Cell tower revenue?
Correct.
So that's not a separate line item?
No, it's not.
Okay.
I'll double check that, Russ, but
I'm just curious because it was part of the discussion when we allowed both of those facilities to go on park property, is that those funds would go to Parks and Rec.
right,
And
they
I
are.
just wanted to see the proof that that was happening.
Yep, they are going to Parks and Recreation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Karstens?
It's my understanding that the farming operations that take place at Maple Bay, that the farmers who are doing that, I don't know that for sure. I thought maybe they were paying a fee to use the land, or they're renting the land in some way. Do you know of anything in that regard, or?
No, they're not paying, but they are following guidelines from the USDA to ensure that we're meeting the criteria for the grants and the types of crops they plant, as well as the amount that they harvest or in effect leave standing. They're also willing to forego loss in some of their crops because it is a public park, and they realize people may walk through the middle of their cornfields or walk through the middle of their sunflower fields.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Larson?
Jason, what's your, I guess, editorial comments on the status of our budget? And there's a lot of numbers here, and I'm pretty good with numbers, but how do you feel about the numbers, and where do you think we sit today based on your revenues and your expenditures, and how do you feel about the year so far?
Revenues, the only thing we have to base it on right now is the pool. It's the only one of our cost centers that has had a significant amount of revenues so far this year. We're just at the beginning of show season, so we haven't seen any significant revenues coming in yet for the arena. Because we're coming into spring, we haven't seen any significant rentals of our Twin Lakes property. Our expenditures are, so I guess it's too early to talk about revenues for some of our other parks or some of our other properties. We're seeing an increase in revenues within the pool. This month, we're at $54,000, or excuse me, this year so far, just specifically within the pool, we're at $54,042. In 2009, at this point in the year, we were at $38,000. 2008, we were at $28,000. In 2007, we were at $34,000. So I'm seeing an increase in revenues in the swimming pool, and that's because of the changes and the additional programming that's gone on there. One of the challenges we have is we're kind of experimenting. We're following the Lutra report's suggestion of having customer service representatives at the pool, and we've started that with Laura Engler being there in the morning, as well as a young lady named Erica that's there on the weekend evenings. So that has increased our personnel expenditures in the pool this year, but we have seen some revenues increase because people are forced to be more honest when they utilize the swimming pool. And for a variety of other reasons, it allows us, frees up some time for Kim and myself to do additional things and provides better avenues for marketing, and we're able to do more within the pool, to be proactive in getting people into the pool. So that's one of the challenges with our expenditures there. As far as the rest of the facilities are concerned, our expenditures, there's nothing that sticks out in my mind that is unusual for this year versus years in the past. We anticipate being able to rent Twin Lakes this year versus for the full rate, versus we gave a 50% discount last year because of construction. So we should see that increase. We're working with American Legion for their bill left over from last year's baseball fields in the amount of $10,351, and it's really interesting. They're talking about possibly donating that back to us, as giving us their used baseball equipment, and possibly donating that entire $10,000 to us to create seed money for a scholarship program. That, you know, if we travel down the road of creating a scholarship program in-house and externally, that could be good seed money there. So we may see a slight decrease with expenditures, or with revenues this year for the Civic Center. Based on last year, we still are outstanding a $10,000 bill from American Legion, but it may be for the better good in the long term. Right now, it's a bit too early to tell because we haven't had a lot of major activity.
I am working, I've been asking for a great deal of information from Jason and from Kim on numbers, and I'm working on an analysis. The Lutra report, at the time it was done, said the contribution margin for swim lessons was at 56%, and it set a goal of, I think it was 76 or 77% as what our contribution margin should be for lessons. Last winter, it was a negative 48%. Those are my initial numbers. I can tell you it was a negative contribution margin. What I'm seeing for spring is an actual change where it's a positive contribution margin. I don't know the exact numbers yet, and I haven't finalized, winter sessions yet either. I will tell you all, and I've been concerned about this for years, and I'm especially concerned right now about the pool, simply because finances, the county is so stretched for finances right now. Dean Bott, the finance director, I've been working with him, and he is reading the Lutra report. He's keenly aware, as I know Jason and Kim are keenly aware of the impact that Easling Pool has on the county's budget. And I will tell you my concern, and I've said it more than once, my concern is when a county board member is going to select between a sheriff's deputy and a swim lesson, what are you going to pick? I'm not saying that I don't believe the pool is valuable, because if I didn't believe that, I would have never run for office when I did. It was why I ran for office. Anyway, that's my concern. And Commissioner Byrne?
I graduated with a degree in recreation. I've done lots of studying. I'm experienced, and spent 3 days at a conference in January. Some of the things that really are important that I think in this county are not talked about is the impact that a recreation department has on a community. If you would all reference Grand Traverse County Area Parks and Recreation Analysis, I'd ask you to look under, right in the middle, Parks and Recreation percentage of total budget. All the way down at the bottom, you will see that Grand Traverse County's percentage for Parks and Recreation's budget, it says 0.79%. So for Grand Traverse County's budget, the entire budget for Grand Traverse County, only 0.79% of our county's budget goes to Parks and Recreation, goes to the Parks and Recreation Department. I understand that the pool is a concern, and again, as commissioners of this board, I feel it is not only our responsibility but our duty to really engage and embrace what Parks and Recreation does for a community. And the fact that we are running at 0.79% of the total county's budget, that's less than 1%. Our department is less than 1% of the total county's budget.
Okay, any other additional questions or comments on the budget? All right, moving on to new business. Number 1, Jim Hefner utility easement.
Jim Hefner's here. We'd like to have him
All right.
present.
Mr. Hefner, would you come forward, please?
And my wife joining up here?
Oh, absolutely.
I was warned to be very brief because it's a long, drawn-out meeting.
Hopefully not tonight. It's 80 degrees outside.
Also, I gave you some better copies to look at. It took me a while to still figure out the GIS and active mapping. There's been lots of emails flying around, but let's just summarize it. My wife and I bought a 2.2-acre lot next to the Vasa Trailhead. A couple years ago, we purchased it from Sally Erickson, where she grew up, her full playground. Our intention is to start building a house there, and we have a 33-foot easement from Bartlett Road down to our lot for utilities and driveway access. I had Bruce Stocking come out and take a look at, he's from Cherryland Rural Electric, to see where the best place to bring power in from. And he noticed that there was underutilized transformers over by the Vasa barn. There's a photo of it on the back of this. And he suggested that would be the least intrusive, the least costly way to pull the power in. And it would be an underground utility easement granted to Michigan Public Utilities. And Russ took a look at my initial drawing and suggested that we go straight north from the transformer over to the property line, the county property line, so that we would avoid any conflicts with the barn, any expansion with the barn. And that wall up there is the one that shows over to the property line. Then run along the edge of the property line and then go into our property. Bob Otwell has reviewed this proposal, and he said that this pending easement will in no way affect the Vasa Trail, our grooming, or anything we are involved in. I know that most of you got an email from Sharon a couple days ago concerned about any deed restrictions that there might be from the Michigan DNR when they deed the property 40 acres over to the county. And Mr. Walter Lynn, the DNR easement coordinator who actually was involved with the original Vasa property, he said the conveyance to Grand Traverse County gave them all of the discretion on whether or not to grant the utility easement, whether for public or private purposes. So you do have that ability. There's no restriction from the state. There was some concern about the vacant 30 acres that we go across. And Bruce Stocking said that what they would bring in for a single-family home wouldn't be suitable for the full development of that 30 acres, which is zoned R3, which urban residential, and will eventually probably have sewer and water there. So that is kind of a separate issue from what bringing power into one family's house. Questions, comments? Yes.
Commissioner Doran?
Jim, who owns the property just to your, I guess that would be west? You've got these, the line goes north on the
Yes.
county property, and then goes east, still on the county property. Who's right next to you there? Is that Erickson's?
Yes, that's Richard and Meredith Erickson, property. Obviously, it's his estate. It is currently on the market for sale for $695. So if there's any extra money for enlarging the Vasa Park, that'd be it.
And who owns to the north of you? Is that county-owned property as well?
Actually, what Dick Erickson did was, he was the only
parcel.
private individual that gave any major land to the company, or to the county for the Vasa Trail. He gave a 100-foot easement that connects the Vasa Trailhead to the county property by Bunker Hill Road. And that was to allow us to use that for parking and for staging our race, a big open field. But we found out that we had not enough snow down there because it was wide open, and there was a high groundwater table bubble, and we weren't able to utilize that very many years. But there's still a trail that goes down through there. It's called the Meadows Trail. And we put it into, it runs down along the creek on the county property, and it's also known, because it's not part of the state property, there's no restrictions on having dogs on that loop. So it's the Meadows Loop officially, but it's also known as the Poop Loop.
And Acme Township owns the property just to your east?
Yes.
I got a couple of questions. Number one, if the county granted you an easement, or actually Cherryland, because it's Cherryland that would get the easement, right?
Michigan Public Utilities, I think.
Okay. Really? Okay.
That's what Bruce was saying.
Anyway, would you agree, and therefore Cherryland would agree, that if we ever asked for it to be moved, that you would pay for the move?
We would be willing to do that, yes.
Okay.
We don't want to impede any activity on the Vasa Trailhead property. I love the Vasa. I was very involved with the development of that trail. I was trail chief. I was groomer. My ashes are going to be spread on that trail when I die.
Well, let's hope that's not for a while.
Yeah.
Also, my other question is, if the county needed to get across your property with an underground utility, would you give the county permission to get across there to get a line out to Acme or any place?
I only own the 2.2 acres there.
Correct.
Okay, yes.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Any additional questions? Jason?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Questions?
I was just going to indicate that Jason and I did meet and talk about this before the commission meeting, and the original route that was recommended for the underground utility went in a diagonal northeast across in front of the current barn for maintenance for the Vasa. I suggested going in a more indirect route to the 2-acre property to facilitate additional expansion of the building should it need to move to the north or doubling the size. This realignment would facilitate that.
If there are no additional questions, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, or to recommend that the county grant a utility easement to Cherryland to service the Hefner property, and that it include a provision that if the county asks that it be relocated, that Cherryland or someone else will pay for the relocation costs. And I would ask that it further be conditioned on the following, that if it's not used for some period of time, or it's abandoned, that it would lapse.
Is there support?
Support.
Further discussion?
I have a comment.
Jason?
I'm not, and this commission can do whatever it'd like with the flurry of emails that have come through just in the past couple days and the timeliness of this situation, I would ask that this commission not approve in allowing time for further research and further understanding of all the entities involved, what's going on, take into consideration future development of the Vasa Trailhead before this commission approves it. And I'm not saying to absolutely deny it, but to give us more time in researching this.
Any additional discussion?
I think that the county the county board is actually the one, and Bob Cooney's the prosecuting attorney, has got to draft up the documents, so probably a lot of that will happen before it gets to the county, gets through the county committee system. And does this go directly to the county commission, or does this go to a facilities?
This would go to the Resource Management and Administration Committee, and at that point, it would move on. Bob's reviewed portions of this, and the county would have to be compensated in some form for the easement. He did express that. But before he would weigh in, he asked for more time as well.
All right, we have a motion and support. Further discussion?
So as I understand it, if this motion passes with the endorsements or attachments that you had recommended, which improves the situation, but this would just be the first step. This will still go to Resource Management and Administration and then the county board. And this gets the process moving along. So it could be killed if there are serious concerns about a private use of public lands. That question needs to be addressed. I'm hearing good answers relative to proactive planning of the space. So I guess, our say is not the end result. So I would be supporting the motion.
All right, all those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
All right, next on the agenda, Parks and Rec Resolution Committee.
We appreciate your effort on the trail too, Mr. Hefner.
Next on the agenda, Parks and Rec Resolution Committee. Jason, you want to take this?
Yeah, let me file through my easement information.
Or I can. I can go ahead.
Sure.
Yesterday, the county board approved the resolution that you have. Resolution number, it's a blank, dash 2010, and also approved our board rules. I believe our only next step is for us to formally agree to them, Commissioner Doran.
Was it the county board that approved?
It was the Resource
Management Committee?
Management Committee, which is all 9 members of the board, and
Okay.
it was approved unanimously. So, if there are no changes, I would entertain a motion to...
Madam Chair, could I clarify, in the rules and regulations, my page is 87, maybe if you don't have it in person, maybe you can answer. I just have a question here. It's italicized. It says, "The Parks and Recreation Commission shall prepare annually an operating budget," and then italicized, it says, "for final approval by the County Board of Commissioners," with a star on it.
Kevin, you said 87?
It's page 80.
78.
Oh, well, there's also a 6. Now, I'm looking at rules
Yeah, I
and
don't-
regulations. Rules and regulations with respect to county parks.
Yep. In
My
what section?
Page 78.
It says, mine says 87.
Yeah,
and-
mine says
or
87, too.
And,
It does.
and the top sentence,
Same part of it.
I got it right here. I could show it says 87.
it's a minor issue. I just
Yeah.
wondered why that star
That
is
asterisk, yeah,
italicized.
why is
That is, wow.
that?
Because
You know,
there's-
we'd have to ask Bob that. Because Bob prepared.
He's got it denoted.
normally when something is starred, there's a footnote
There's
on
an
why that
footnote.
is. So I just want to make sure what we're approving here.
I honestly don't know the answer to that
Okay, I
question.
wonder-
The
I
only,
remember when we were discussing this in our meeting that, I mean, the commission has always done our budget in the past, correct?
Well, actually, the budget is done by the county administrator.
Right.
And then it is submitted to the County Board of Commissioners.
County Board of Commissioners, which would be a change.
The responsibility for the budget for Parks and Rec will be this commission's. The final word will be the county board.
And the final word being the county board, that is part of the state statute.
That's what it was, I think. I think that's what it
And
was.
I believe at one point throughout our note-taking and our meetings, Bob did denote specific things related to the
State statute.
just to the state statute with a star. I can't say that is definitively what it is, but that the Board of Commissioners has final approval is in congruence with state statute.
I have no issue with that. That's usual and customary and expected. I just wonder if there was any surprises with that italicized starred statement, and I'm not hearing any. So I'm in support of the rules.
All right. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution and the rules?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution blank at this point.
2010.
And our board rules as approved by was it Resource Recovery?
Resource Management
Resource
and
Management.
Administration.
And
And I
administration.
second that motion.
Discussion. All those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. We have new board rules. All right, next on our agenda, Commissioner Clark.
Could I ask a quick question? Was the bylaws, that's a separate document, and those also have been approved, right?
Yes.
That's what we just,
That's what we
well,
just
we
did.
called them rules, but
I'm sorry.
they're bylaws.
We had
That was,
Well, I think the motion here was for this resolution and these rules, and
oh,
then there are bylaws.
we do need to have a motion to approve those bylaws.
I think we already did that. The question was whether the county board had.
We did, we approved both. We did it separate resolutions.
Okay, all right.
And
Two
we already
separate ones.
approved them.
When we already did,
So
so
we're good.
And the-
maybe we could get an official copy out for our files.
The board bylaws were approved by the Resource Management and Administration Committee. It has not gone to the full Board of Commissioners
Okay.
yet.
All right. So once that's all done, can we get official copies?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
All right, Commissioner Clark.
Thank you very much. I am bringing forth some individual research I've been doing over the last 4 months on what the current status is in our county on recreation spending by various municipalities, how many acres of parks, what type of parks and rec commissions there are, et cetera. Just trying to get some pulse on where the community stands in terms of expenditures or tax dollars being spent on recreation and for what amount of recreation area. And my basic purpose, again, to determine the dollars being spent in the county, determine how many parks and recreation commissions or committees there are within the county, the number of parks and acres, analyze the staffing budgets and the percentage of total budget for parks and recreation programs, facilities by municipality, and determine the parkland to population ratio or area per person and the recreation budget to population ratio by municipality. In other words, recreation dollars spent per person. You have in front of you the spreadsheet. This PowerPoint is the summary of that spreadsheet. Within our county, we have 13 townships, 2 villages, 1 city, 16 municipalities. We have 1 recreation authority. The Traverse City Garfield Township Park Authority is a voter-approved park authority, encompasses all of Garfield Township and Traverse City, specifically encompasses all of that in terms of the millage, but specifically for 3 parks. All 3 parks are within the city of Traverse City. Those parks are the historic Barnes property of the Commons, the Hickory Meadows by Hickory Ski Facility, and the West Bay waterfront property where the volleyball courts are located. All the funds for this millage of an operating cost are .0994 mils until the year 2023. Who pays down all the cost on the properties and sets up the management plans, according to my research. Townships by population is in there. We've identified townships from our highest level of population to the lowest. We've identified the 2 villages and the city separately, as well as the county. And these are all populations based on the 2000 census. Then I analyzed the recreation commissions. We have elected Parks and Rec commissions, we have appointed Parks and Recreation commissions, and we have communities with no Parks and Recreation commissions. 6 of the 13 townships do not have a Parks and Recreation commission or committee. Those are Garfield, Whitewater, Fife Lake, Mayfield, Grant, and Union Townships. 2 townships have an elected Parks and Recreation commission. Those are East Bay and Peninsula Township. The number of parks and acreages throughout the county, including the Recreation Authority, totals 102 parks, 6,507 acres of land. This local recreation, township, city, county, and rec authority. 3 townships don't have any local parks at all. Fife Lake Township, Mayfield, and Grant. Township parkland total ranges in size from 3.5 acres to 700 acres of land. Garfield, I believe Peninsula Township has the largest number. The city of Traverse City has 34 parks with a total area of 318 acres. Plus they have the Brown Bridge Quiet Area of 1,275 acres, which they do not consider as parkland, but it is recreation land. We're totaling 1,594 acres of recreation land. One thing that's occurred in this research is that I have not been able to find compilation of our acreages.
Of what?
The county. A total summary of our acreages. Was told in the past that it was 2,000 acres. At this point, this still needs to be verified. I believe that we're around just under 1,600 acres of land. And Reinhardt and GIS has done some analysis. I've looked at his analysis that Jason requested. There are some things that he wasn't considering in the Natural Education Reserve that our county owns, so his numbers were 1,300. When I re-looked at that, I'm at 1,599 at this point. This just needs to be determined, an analysis through GIS, and we'll put it to bed. But at this point, we're somewhere in this range, very close to the total acreage that the city has, which is an interesting comparison. Garfield Township and the Traverse City Park Authority, they have 3 parks with a total of 177 acres. Parks and Recreation staffing. Throughout all the municipalities, we have 29 full-time staff, and when I interviewed the various municipalities regarding staffing, I was asking, okay, if people that are dealing with recreation and or maintenance of the recreation facilities. And so the municipalities gave me full-time and part-time staffing. They're showing 29 full-time staff throughout the county and 96 part-time. The annual Parks and Recreation budgets. It's a very interesting analysis. When you look at the population comparison to the budgets, there are some comparisons that make sense and others that don't, but we have municipalities that have 0 to the city, which has $1.6 million for Parks and Rec. It's the highest number. The other thing that I found in this research is that several townships actually budget and provide funds for Civic Center South. Paradise Township has a $15,000 budget, of which they give $10,000 to Civic Center South. Yeah, if I recall correctly here, we have $2,000 in Mayfield. All that goes to Civic Center South, and $500 from Union Township goes to Civic Center South. The percentages are all over the board when you compare the percentage of the recreation budget to the total municipal budgets. Just a thing that I wanted to see if there was an average, or there could be an average. But what really struck my mind, as Commissioner Burns indicated, when we looked at the county, and again, These are numbers that have been given to me based on interviews and phone calls with various people throughout the community. These numbers are subject to change. I cannot say by hard and fast that these are 100% correct, but based on interviews and indicating I would like to have the total budget for the municipality and what you spend on Parks and Rec, these are the numbers that were given me under those criteria. So when you look at the people to parkland ratio, how many acres do you get per municipality, or how many square feet? The more appropriate number breaks down according to this particular portion of the table. And the area that really has the highest number is Whitewater Township. And this is township parkland, not state or federal land. That's a whole different analysis, and it's not part of this particular analysis at this point. Sorry, my title got a little large there. When I compare that to the recreation dollars spent per person, take the population and the recreation dollars, factor those two together, this is the ratio that comes up from 99 cents, or zero in one township's case, to $111 per person spent on recreation, based on population. So in conclusion, the Grand Traverse County residents are spending a combined total of over $3.6 million for parks and recreation services and facilities with this snapshot in time. Okay. 3 townships do not have any local parks. 6 townships don't have a Parks and Recreation Commission or committee. 2 townships have elected Parks and Recreation Commissions. There are 102 local parks, totaling 6,507 acres. There are 29 full-time and 96 part-time recreation and maintenance employees within the Grand Traverse County, working in 11 different municipalities. And the average Parks and Recreation budget for the townships is $59,000, including Acme and Garfield, who are currently acquiring property and have very large recreation allocations compared to normal years at this point because of their acquisitions. When you take out those 2 townships, the average expenditure for recreation budget is $28,800. The range of current and annual township parks and recreation budget is from $0 to $300,000. Currently, Garfield Township is budgeting $300,000 for recreation. They are in an acquisition mode at this point. And no staff appropriated, and no Parks and Rec Commission at this point.
Did you say Garfield Township? That was
Garfield Township. 4 townships contribute money to Civic Center South within the village of Kingsley. So it's Paradise, Five Lake, Mayfield, and Union. 2 villages have an average budget. 2 villages meaning Five Lake and Kingsley. They have an average Parks and Recreation budget of $8,900. City of Traverse City has the highest amount budgeted for Parks and Recreation at $1.6 million. Grand Traverse County has the second highest amount budgeted for Parks and Recreation at $1.2 million. Traverse City and Garfield Township Park Authority operates again on a $151,000 budget. It's funded by voter-approved millage of .0994 mils through the year 2023. So what does all this mean? A lot of analysis, a lot of numbers. So what are the considerations? As I think I've mentioned to each of you in the past, that long-term, there should be some discussions for a Parks and Rec Authority of combining some of these efforts. When you look at the dollars being spent, just between the county and the city, it's huge. And within the proximity of each other, within a couple miles of each other, for the most part. So I'm trying to plant the seed that for the future, I would encourage consideration of discussion with the city on a park authority. I think the numbers can support that, and perhaps even do better for the taxpayers. should the County Parks and Recreation Commission consider having a community recreation workshop where we bring in all the recreation commissions that exist, the city, the park authority, and the townships, and talk about Parks and Rec, and see what we can do to work together as a combined unit instead of 11 different units. And the other part of that is, should we also share our ideas and funding requests? Because we compete against each other on every application we make for recreation funds. And if we could work collectively and support each other and do so in a logical progress to build better recreation facilities throughout the community cohesively instead of independently, I think we would better serve our taxpayers. Any questions?
Russ, I'd like to thank you for this. This is a wonderful way to show what is going on around us, and I appreciate this data and the time that you took to do this, and thanks for presenting it to us.
Russ,
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that, too.
it's an excellent piece of work. Do you have enough copies so I can put one in every Board of Commissioners mailbox?
Absolutely, I'll make whatever copies you'd like.
Russ,
I'll need 8 more, I have my own.
No, I would almost love to have you go to a Board of Commission meeting and present this, just
I'd be happy to do it.
for
Oh, I think that's a
Beneficial.
wonderful idea. I'll put you,
Good.
I'll put you on probably next month's Resource Management and Administration agenda. That's a wonderful idea, Commissioner Byrne. Commissioner Doran?
Rusty, in your preparing all this, and again, thanks, it's a heck of a lot of work. It's really a great product. Did you see anything that jumped out at you as ways for cost sharing or some savings that could be achieved if things were done jointly with the city or with others?
Well, what motivated me to do the analysis was just the fact that knowing the cost that the city and the county are so close, and knowing that the townships are evolving into more and more recreation facilities, programming, et cetera, that it just made sense from the standpoint of looking down the road, maybe it's 10 years, I don't know how many years, of how we could combine efforts and consider a regional authority and perhaps reduce some of the turf aspects of providing recreation in our community.
Ultimately, I might agree with you, but my experience tells me that turf is very hard to give up, and
I know it is.
the first step is communication,
Right.
like your idea of some regional meetings, but, I mean, the city has a forester,
Right,
full-time forester. I don't think the county has a forester.
not anymore, no.
No.
And, we got trees.
That's-
And somebody ought to be helping us, or somebody with some expertise should be looking at those trees. In fact, all of these entities have got trees.
Yeah.
And they're all buying, stuff. I don't know what, fertilizer
Right,
or
exactly.
lawnmowers or
Equipment.
things,
Oh.
equipment. And there should be some opportunity there, I think, for joint use and joint purchase of materials.
Good idea.
Might save some money.
That's right. That's my primary reason in doing this, is to try and plant the ideas and then let the process see how it goes from there. Now, there's been talk in the past, and when I met with Lauren Vaughn from the city, he says every 6 years it's talked about a park authority, and then it dies down and it comes back. Well, maybe it's time to get it beyond talk and actually have a meeting and look at some of the possibilities.
We know, from your presentation, that there's a specially voted millage for the Garfield Township City Recreational Authority. And I think that there's one in Peninsula, in Acme?
No.
There's a millage in Peninsula Township that purchased the parkland, but I don't believe it's for operations.
Are there any operational special voted
could be wrong.
villages?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of. To my knowledge, the joint park authority that exists between Garfield and the city is the only one that has an ongoing operational millage, and they have a specific program that they are trying to meet. One was acquire the properties, 2, develop a master plan and management plan for those properties. And and begin some implementation. How far they go in implementation, I don't know.
Commissioner McEllier.
Madam Chair, yeah, thanks. I really appreciate this. It's obvious you were motivated. It was great to hear what motivated you in your passion, because you see these systems morphing. I'm going to use this opportunity, the question up on the screen, where do we go from here? And I wanted to chime in when Commissioner Burns said this spreadsheet. Are you the author of this spreadsheet?
I am.
Russ? Okay, we didn't talk about this one, but at that time, 0.79%, I'm seeing a pattern here that I'd like to look at other comparable counties.
I would love to, too.
Yeah, and I'm not sure who has the time or energy to pull all that together. So I'm seeing a pattern of looking at fees of comparable counties, looking at budgets of comparable counties. In comparable counties, maybe we go to the Siegel study. We've already determined there are some comparable counties that can compare to Grand Traverse County. And I think that'll help in this. Before you give another presentation, if I were in your shoes, I would want to present those numbers before or after. I think this is great. We're taking it to the next level. I keep seeing this pattern about fees and how do we charge compared to comparable counties. Thanks, Russ. I appreciate this.
Jason.
Just to kind of follow up with what Russ had mentioned in regards to authorities, right now is kind of an interesting time in talking about parks and recreation authorities. Several have popped up, especially in the southeast corner of the state, with smaller communities and smaller community education systems popping up. Within our school district here, it's kind of interesting in talking about recreation authorities, because if we were to offer recreation programs, what facilities would we hold those in? Because the parks within each of these different municipalities are light on facilities, but we do have a great school system. The school district is some of the, I've talked with a few people at the school district, and some of them are interested in getting some intramural sports going. But right now, school districts cannot be part of a Parks and Recreation Authority. Although there is some legislation right now, it's on hold in the House of Representatives in the state, that will allow schools to become parts of parks, or become full partners in Parks and Recreation Authorities, which would do a lot for providing indoor facilities for year-round Parks and Recreation programming.
Commissioner Doran?
Just out of curiosity, is the Senior Citizen Center that's run by the City of Traverse City, is that in their recreation budget? So that's
Not the information I was given, okay?
So that's not included in these.
I was given a list of all the parks in the city, property-wise. And when I sat down with Warren Vaughn, the Parks and Rec Director, and he did not mention anything about the property of the senior center. He did indicate some of the aspects of the cemetery, some of the maintenance costs related to that, are lumped in there as well. But that's still, it is an open space. You can walk through it. But he did not mention that property. Now, if I am speaking in error because I don't know, it's because we didn't have the communication.
Okay. Thanks.
So my recommendation, where do we go, is we utilize this information in our recreation plan when we get to that point. We still need to analyze the acres. I would like to be able to demonstrate to our population, our residents, that we have somewhere in the vicinity of 6,000 acres of local public parkland, plus we've got another umpteen thousand acres of state and federal land within the county. And I would like to be able to break that down, working with GIS department, by municipality. Because local access to recreation is very important. Not everybody has the ability to drive cross-country to utilize natural areas. But if they're aware that there are multiple different opportunities within their own township, village, that they can access, our recreation plan needs to demonstrate that. And I would like to also include in the analysis of school properties. There's tremendous recreation facilities standing idle a good share of the time if we can work through the administrative process of sharing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Moving on. Board policy, executive limitations. This is me. I just put this in your packet for information, the executive limitations. I asked Jason to put it on the agenda for the Rules Committee for a discussion. And as I said at strategic planning, I would like the Parks Department to buy this book for every Parks Commissioner. What this really does, in my view, is it gives the board guidelines in setting policies that keep the board's job as the big picture, rather than it keeps the board's job as to what we are here for. And it's our job to set objectives, in a nutshell. And how the job is done is the director's job. And I really think that by having this book and using this as we develop policies, I really think that it's going to improve board operations long after some of us are no longer on the board. So I would like the Parks Department to purchase this book for any commissioner who wants it, and I'm asking that all commissioners receive this book.
Commissioner Max Bauer, were you going to bring this book to the Board of Commission as well?
I plan on it, yes.
I just wonder if, I just think of budgets, and we're talking about Parks and Rec budget and things, and I'm wondering if it might be something that comes out of our county budget versus our Parks and Rec budget.
Well, the Parks and Rec
we're not
budget is the
talking,
county budget, so...
Well, but there's line items and things, and I'm just putting it out there, if, you know.
No,
So, that's all.
it's for the Parks Board.
I thought it was something that you were going to bring to all boards.
Well,
that-
I'm going
that
to bring,
facilitate
I'm
within
going
the
to
county.
ask that the county board purchase it for themselves, but that would not come out of the Parks budget. But this for the Parks Board would come out of the Parks budget.
How many copies does the library have?
One,
Just one?
this is my personal one. I returned the one at the library, so it's back on the shelf.
Excuse me, for the minutes, could I have the actual title? And
Oh, certainly. It's Boards That Make a Difference, and it's written by John Carver.
I don't have a problem with the department buying, I'm going to buy my own, so on your recommendation, I'm going to read it, but I'm just going to purchase my own copy.
All right. How many would like the Parks Department to purchase their book?
I've
Please.
already ordered a copy, it's on
You
its way.
have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Commissioner Carstens, would you like the Parks Department to give you a copy? Commissioner Byrne?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
I'll purchase my own.
Commissioner Larson?
Purchase my own as well.
All right, and Commissioner... All right, thank you. Moving on to the minutes, the last item under new business.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. I asked to pull the minutes for a quick correction. First of all, I want to back up Marilyn. I think you're doing a great job on the minutes. You've taken some lengthy discussions and you've summarized them. So this is a minor, very minor correction that doesn't reflect at all on the great job I think you're doing on these minutes, concise. So on item 7, budget report, the paragraph that was drafted is acceptable. There was a lengthy discussion that Jason had already mentioned about that we wanted to monitor budget numbers, increases, decreases, et cetera. You all received a sentence here. I'll read it into the record. Have you consider adding the correction that members' continued discussion relative to the need to monitor budget numbers and spending patterns relative to expenditures and revenues? And then the second and final correction, it was hard to determine, but in the video and recording, you can hear that the motion was seconded by Larson and not McEllier drafted. Those are my 2 corrections for consideration.
I would entertain a motion for approval of the minutes.
I will move that they be approved with Commissioner McEllier's changes.
Is there support?
Support.
Discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. The last item on our agenda, Director's Report. Jason?
I'll give you guys just a brief update of what's going on in some of the parks. We are looking at developing or grading and graveling a road at Maple Bay. There's one access to Maple Bay, the west side of the park. And because of the quality of the path that goes in, patrons have now made 3 paths to get around some ruts and some dangerous areas. We do have some money in a separate fund of the budget that we may be able to use. We're checking with some of the granting agencies for the Maple Bay Park. Scholarships, at this time, we've provided 13 scholarships for Civic Center baseball. We are at 375 registrants as of right now. We anticipate seeing another increase in the rapidity that these are coming in, and we will be well into by the end of next week, I would project it will be over 500.
Can I ask you a question, Jason?
Sure.
When is your cutoff deadline so people know when they have to get their sign-ups in?
We're not necessarily going to have a cutoff. We are going to have a somewhat of a rolling deadline. When we start forming teams, which we anticipate being the last week of the month, we'll place all the kids that we have up to that point. And then we will fill in kids as necessary in order to keep teams as even as possible. And then once the season gets going, especially with games, we'll hold kids. If there are 8 teams in a division, we're going to hold 8 kids on a waiting list until we can put 1 kid on each team in order to make things as even as possible. So it'd be ideal to have them by the end of the last week of the month, but we'll still accept them beyond that point as well.
Commissioner Doran?
Have you done anything with coaches, letters or anything?
We've been compiling coaches as they've come in with registration forms. There's an area for people to say, I'd like to coach my child, or I'd like to volunteer in another form. We've got that data compiled, and we were really hoping to see more registrations coming in. It's just they've come in, they started trickling in slowly, but now that they're speeding up, that's one of our projects for next week. Any other questions about baseball? Twin Lakes, we've compiled the punch list for the Twin Lakes Access to Recreation Project. The project will be completed when asphalt plants open up for the year, and when we can get, Hallmark can get mobilized out there. Russ Clark and I also met with the Dzelski and the Dumbrell families, who each received a letter from last month with some concerns regarding the access. And it's something I'm discussing with Mark Robinson. So, the Civic Center fence, just in case you saw it on the news, on March 26th, the vehicle turning left onto Fair Street took a slight detour through our fence at that corner and took out a couple of posts. It was kind of an interesting timing. MDOT has approached us in regards to moving part of our fence at that corner of the property.
I thought you were going to say making an entrance there.
No, they actually would like to see us move some of that fencing so it creates a better visible corner for traffic.
I would like to recommend that we seriously look at that, because that fence should be at a 45-degree angle to allow for a better clear vision zone for safety. And it should be that way on any intersection that we have 2 roads coming together.
Interestingly enough, in the past couple months, and it's the first time I've heard this request, in the past couple months, I've had a couple people request that we pull the fence entirely out. It's a property that's not locked. We never lock the gates to the Civic Center.
Personally, there's been a lot of discussion on this historically, and the fence is left over from the days of the fairground, for the most part. There are pros and cons to having the fence there and having it gone. Personally, I think there's some safety in having the fence on the property, especially with all the youngsters on the trail around the perimeter of the property.
And Kids Cove.
So I personally feel we should maintain the fence and retain it, but we should pull it away from the intersections for safety.
Okay.
Sorry. Is that it?
And that's all I have.
All right. We have our last opportunity for public comment. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
I have one question.
Oh, certainly, Commissioner Larson.
I've just been contemplating that, and I pose it as a question of appropriateness, not as a request. Looking at the Lutra report and the matrix that we have on the recommendations and their status, big picture-wise, the Lutra report said you need to cut your costs and you need to increase your membership. So we get cost data, and we're still working on refining how we present that, but we don't get membership data. I was wondering if the board felt it was appropriate to get monthly reports on improvements or the ebb and flow of memberships as we work through this process to see if what we're doing has any effect at all, or if there are certain milestones that happen that cause, yes, now we really get the machine rolling and seeing that. I don't want to get down and micromanage every little thing that happens and look at, well, what were your costs this week, and did we get any people to sign up? But in the big picture-wise, there are two parts to that budget on whether we're making it. So I throw that out as a question. Do you feel that's appropriate?
I did ask when we were talking about budget that we have membership information in our monthly packet, just so we can see, how many memberships we have, how many we are retaining, if there are any new ones, if we're losing them. These are...
I'd like to just make mention, we can provide information in regards to memberships, but you're right, it did say increase memberships. One of the challenges with that, though, is it said increase memberships and create more open swimming or more available time to members. And within the Lutra report, we're kind of we're at an interesting spot, because in order to make that additional time, we've had to, in implementing some of the other recommendations, like changing the lesson format, changing how we've offered lessons and things like that, we are kind of moving around larger pieces of time. We're trying to move around larger pieces of time in order to open up more pool space. So one of the last things that you'll see implemented by us moving around and implementing some other recommendations will be opening up time for members and making the facility a more member-friendly, as it mentions within the Lutra report. So some of the other recommendations need to be implemented first for us to break open some of the time and create a better opportunity for members to utilize the facility whenever they want. So that's kind of a building block, and the last building block that'll go in would be the increasing time for members.
I agree, and I do understand what you're saying on that one. My opinion is that it doesn't hurt to start watching a baseline.
Absolutely.
And I wouldn't expect to see rapid or exponential growth at this point in the process. It's still a new process, and we have to get the word out. It has to do with marketing, it has to do with time. It just takes time for these to gain traction. Those are my comments.
Anything else from anybody?
I'll just echo, because you noticed the pattern, I've always been advocating, we can't monitor it, we can't manage it. And Al, I think you struck a balance. We don't want to micromanage it, but yet you hear I've been asking for budget reports, and so I concur with your statement. You want to somehow monitor some snapshots of it so we can trust it's being effectively managed, I guess.
I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved?
Support?
Support.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.